Hey guys, this is Caspi with Tape, and today you join me for episode 27 of Caspi Road to Exploration, and we start with a launch of an Eris 2.1, which really should be updated, because I remember last time I didn't really have enough fuel on it to get to the station. Let's hope that's not a problem this time. It's a problem this time, obviously. I mean, the amount of Delta V doesn't change. But yeah, anyway, so, this is the Pulsar 4 vehicle, as you well know, my biggest launch vehicle right now, taking fuel to the station, because I like to try and keep the station pretty well fueled, and a lot of my missions right now are involving the space station. I mean, they have been for a while, lots of crew. The crew's actually starting to balance out. I have a good amount of crew on there. I could use a couple more return vehicles up there, but right now it's actually doing pretty well. So anyway, this is on its way to the station, and once we're out of the atmosphere, we'll switch to the first stage and skip to where we land it rather nicely, because we're getting rather good at this now. Well, I always say that. We've gotten good at this a long time ago. I can land stages, and yeah, it's doing pretty well. Almost as good as SpaceX, who landed another stage recently and got landing footage from the freaking first stage. Seriously, go to SpaceX's YouTube page. There is a picture of it coming back from space and landing on the barge. It's so intense. Anyway, so yeah, I get that all deployed, and you know what it looks like for me to fail at a rendezvous. So here I am, you can see at the top, my monopropellant is running out, and we are still a little way from the station. So yeah, we're a little bit stuck. So what I would usually do is send out the Redstone 3 or the Ares 2, but they're both on assignment. The only vehicle I really have out there with any reasonable amount of Delta V is the Ares 1, which has pretty much enough Delta V for very small orbital maneuvers getting to the station and returning from the station. But I thought I might as well try. It has a reasonable amount of monopropellant. Annoyingly, this would have worked if this was a monopropellant resupply spacecraft, because often in my Ares ones I bring up monopropellant to resupply the station, but this one was bringing up parts, so it is really low on fuel. So that's a problem. But anyway, here we are. We've gotten over to the Ares 2.1, the Eris 2.1, and I'm wondering if I can maneuver this back. But it's a very heavy payload, and again, I don't have that much Delta V. So after a lot of maneuvering, I get back to the station after like a couple of orbits or something, and I pretty much run out of fuel. So what I decide to do is just leave this here and take the Ares 1 back to the station. It's really confusing, I've got Eris and Ares, but yeah, the Ares 1, we'll take that back to the station, we'll throw it on a docking port, and we'll wait for some higher Delta V vehicles to get here to go and rescue that fuel supply. Yes, I will be updating that next time I launch it, because it is really a big problem. I do seem to have to save a lot of vehicles in this game. But anyway, once we've docked, we are going to be at the moon. Here we are, trying to figure out where the cuts are. Here we are at the moon, and we're leaving. It's been a 16-day mission. This was just our preliminary mission, mostly to get the base up and running and to make sure it all worked, and it did. It has been working fantastically. I didn't turn any of the water purifiers on or anything that recycles life support. That will be part of the next mission. That's the next mission objective, and then a longer stay, but this was a science and construction mission, and then the third mission to this, I'm hopefully going to implement a rover so we can start full swing scientific research in this on this base. So yeah, let's head on back to the fuel tank, which is in orbit, which will allow us to return to Kerbal. And yeah, I'm looking forward to this base. It looks really cool. I'm designing a rover for long-duration rover missions. Luckily, I've done a lot of collaborative warfare, so I am very okay with doing really long, tedious drives and flights. I actually really enjoy it when it's not super laggy, and because it's a rover, it'll be really cool. So I will be doing some pretty long-distance rover missions. Hopefully, if I have time and if the rover works. But luckily with 1.1, which we are now in, we have much better rover physics? Yeah, better rover wheels. They don't roll quite so easily. I do really think 1.1 should have been the 1.0 release, because the 1.0 release was fine, but this is so much more polished. I know it was done. It was done like this so it could work. It would look more professional on consoles and things, and Unity 5 really helped. But still, I think this is definitely the definitive release. I felt like 1.0 was just 0.90 with a couple of things. Anyway, so we got to our Red Origin probe, the fuel tank with the extra fuel that allows us to go places. At some point, I do want a station in orbit of of the moon. I was originally thinking I'd put a base on Minmus, but I really don't think that's necessary. I think I'm just going to have a lander on the station. I might actually use my Ares 3. If you remember a couple of episodes I was designing episodes ago, I was designing a Dragon 2 type spacecraft. I might just have one of them around Minmus so we can just drop out of orbit and do lots of missions rather than having a base, because I just don't think it's necessary. But I do think a station around Minmus will be quite cool, and I might actually, once I replace the Ares 2, you know, the kind of transfer vehicle for taking people to the Minmus and the moon, but only to orbit, which is currently at Minmus, I'm thinking I might just take that to put a couple of docking ports on it, take it to the moon, and use it as the start for a bit of a ghetto space station, because I'm going to put up a nuclear-engined version of the Ares 2 for those kind of missions, so I won't need it anymore. And I think it actually might be quite good as just like a core for a station. I mean, it has crew capacity, it has fuel, it has thrusters, it has life support, like quite a lot of life support, so I think it could actually be quite good as a core. It will save me quite a lot of money. So yeah. Anyway, I just need to head back to the station now, and that's fine. We don't have to do any aerial braking maneuvers with this, because it has a huge amount of fuel, although I probably should, because it would save quite a lot of fuel. But yeah, I have a pretty good fuel supply thing now, and hopefully when I eventually get some 3.75 meter rockets, we will have even more fuel. But the problem is I need to upgrade the Science Center, and that costs like 3 million funds, and then I'd have to upgrade the VAB and things. It's all very expensive. But yeah, so where are we now? Yeah, we've actually got an encounter. I'm just going to do a high velocity encounter, and yeah, just figuring out what I need to do. I just need to do a slight anti-radial burn, or radial burn, one of them. That's where you burn towards and away from the planet. And then prograde, retrograde, obviously you know them, and then the north and south are just normal and anti-normal. Unless I've got those confused. No, because it's normal to your orbit, so north would be... Anyway, I don't really know what I'm talking about, so... yeah, anyway, here we are coming into the station, and keep accidentally opening up Kerbapedia, because the MechJeb window's over that. I should really just click that extra MechJeb button. Yeah, there's still a bit of conflict between the mods UI and the KSP UI, but no, it's nice that the actual KSP UI is unified now. It looks much more professional. But anyway, we do drift past the station a bit, because I slightly overestimated how much time I had. But anyway, we're pretty close, so I'm just going to head right for it, pretty much, and then just meet it in a little bit. Obviously, this isn't the best way of doing things, because the curvature of the orbit means that you're going to drift away, and that was a real problem in the early space travel days, because you're like, how do you rendezvous? Well, you get to your thing and you fly at your thing, and then you get there and it's like, no, because your orbit's curve, and if you're going towards it, then you're actually in a different orbit, and you're going to drift away. And I think that was a problem on one of the Gemini missions where they tried to dock with, I guess, the Aegina, because that was a little thing they put up there to dock with, but they eventually figured it out. You know, they're pretty smart at NASA. You know, they know their stuff, I guess. So yeah, anyway, I'm going to dock onto this bottom docking port, because I put it on there recently and I might as well use it, and it'll make the station even longer. I would like to bring up another extension for this space station, but I'm not entirely sure what it would be. Maybe another fuel thing, maybe just... I'm not sure, maybe another lab, although I think I might put a lab on the Minmus station. I really haven't utilised the Minmus station a huge amount. It's pretty much just a fuel drop anyway. But anyway, like I said, we will need to go and rescue that... the Ares 2.1, the fuel probe, but not before I remember to put the fuel, some monopropellant into the Red Origin. So yes, my high Delta V vehicle, the Moon Lander, will be going and rescuing it. It's the Ares 2.1 has drifted quite a way away. I'm just going to refer to it as the Ares for now. From now. So I'm just going to put myself in an orbit that slows me down over many orbits to save fuel. So I'm going to burn a little bit. And then I'm going to use the nice little feature of the maneuver nodes that allow you to step forward orbits, so you can see here, and this is pretty much how I plan my long distance maneuvers. You have to click on the maneuver node to see what happens, but it's fine. You can see I'm just slowly moving in until I'm 2.5 kilometers. It's pretty good. 9.4. Okay, that's less good. But yeah, it looks like I'm on the way there. But anyway, while I'm getting there, I might as well land this second stage that brought the Eris up. Luckily, these can stay in orbit for a while now, because I put a couple of solar panels on them. And they only have short-range communications equipment, so it doesn't take too much power. So yeah, we're just going to deorbit ourselves rather nicely, and hopefully land pretty close to the KSE, which we do, and obviously I skipped through all the deorbiting now, because, I mean, if you saw that every time, these videos would be very long, or just very I don't know, boring. So here we are. I maneuvered in, you know what that looks like, so just cut through it as per. And I'm just going to grab the Eris and head on back to the space station. And yeah, we should be fine. And the nice thing about this is I'm using a liquid fuel oxidizer engine, so I can use the fuel on the Eris to get to the space station. But I have enough fuel in the lander anyway, so we're cool. But yeah, everything's going to hopefully be pretty good. But annoyingly, now we're behind the station, so we're going to have to go slower, which actually gives us less kind of less maneuverability, I guess, sort of thing, because there's you can't drop your periaps too much, because then you'll be in the atmosphere. So you are a little constrained by that in the amount of time you can take to get to the space station. But I prefer long, slow maneuvers, so it'll be a couple of hours until we get there, but I will spare you that. And here we are, just at the station, slowing down, and you can see there's some weird trail of shadow there. I think that's a scatterer thing, not quite understanding things, but I mean, Scatterer does such an amazing job. But anyway, we get the two spacecraft docked on, and everything is good. We can refuel everything and be very happy. But yeah, so one of the things we need to do now is send some of the crew back. Oh, it actually looks like I've sent one of these Eris probes home. Okay, apparently I didn't leave that footage in, but yeah, I sent the old Eris vehicle back, I think. Or maybe I did leave that in. I don't really remember. I don't know how I edit things. Anyway, so what I'm doing here is I'm just taking one of the reports to the lab so that I can try and I can try and add data to the lab by using the experiment, but it doesn't seem to work quite as well. You see, I've got 329 data, and when I click this button, it adds a little bit of data, but not that much, which is kind of weird. But maybe it's because I have similar reports in there. But what I did realize is the data doesn't like disappear. You can just, it will constantly generate science. I thought it would only generate a certain amount of science with the experiments you give it, but it just does it forever. And the more data you give it, the faster you get science. So that's actually pretty cool. A little confusing. I think it may have changed in 1.1. I'm not really sure. I've never used labs that much. Oh, I didn't cut out sending the probe home. Of course I didn't. I'm not a terrible editor. Anyway, so yeah, we're going to send, I think this is the old one home. I don't know, one of the Eris probes. So we're just going to, yeah, deorbit and hopefully land safely. Yes, here we are. 12 kilometers off the KSC. Pretty good. We're going to get a decent amount of money back for this because we're so close. And we're going to splash down gently. I do realize that I actually have slower landings for my fuel probes than I do for my manned craft. But yeah, we get 10 grand back for that. That's nice. So I think the Kerbals may feel a little bit disenfranchised that I'm so mean to them. Anyway, at the end of last episode, after a very difficult rendezvous, I've moved in close to the spacecraft I'm trying to get to, the Kerbal I need to save around Minmus. But in this kind of orbit, where it's so slow and so large, it's really, really hard to actually get a close encounter. And I did manage it, but you can see I'm trying to move in closer, and I'm just fucking it up. So, luckily we're moving slowly enough that I can just basically null my velocity and then just move in. And we did get within 2 kilometers. Anyway, it's actually one of these base... He's stuck in one of these base pods, which, I mean, usually I don't really care about the debris, but that's an expensive, nice-looking bit of kit. I might go grab that one day, just strap a docking port to it and start a base with it. I don't know, that's some expensive kit. I bet if I grabbed all of the spacecraft, which I saved Kerbals from, I could build a whole new space station. Maybe I will. Maybe that's how I'll build the moon one. Anyway, so I need to change my orbital direction to meet the Ceres space station so I can refuel and go home. Luckily, that's rather easy. You just burn the other way until you're going the other way. And we were going pretty slowly, so it's all good. So it was only about 100 meters per second delta V. So then we just have to rendezvous, which is a beast in itself. So, yeah, we're just going to pull our orbit in and then fish around for a rendezvous. And we're in a very different position, and we're still not moving particularly fast because it is Minmus, so rendezvousing will be relatively difficult. So I'm going to try and catch up with the station, which is hopefully possible. And the maneuver nodes aren't helping me a ton when I did try them to actually see if I'm going to get close. But yeah, I'm just going to basically try and eyeball it, and then hopefully the maneuver nodes will help a bit. But sometimes they're not super accurate because they often don't measure closest approach. They measure like where your orbits cross, and that's often not your closest approach. So yeah, I'm getting sort of close, but I guess just do a few more orbits. And yeah, if you see, I can just do a little burn here, and I'm actually getting pretty close, like 3 kilometers. So that's good. That worked out fine. But I have had a couple of tricky maneuvers around, tricky rendezvous around Minmus in the past few episodes. It's not super easy to maneuver to get encounters at super low velocities because you don't have a huge amount of margin. But anyway, I did manage it, and here we are at Ceres. I'm gonna grab some fuel. I'm pretty much gonna grab all of the fuel out of it, so I will have to refuel Ceres at some point, or just never use this spacecraft again and turn it into a space station, which hopefully I'll do when I figure out how to launch the nuclear vehicle, which is actually quite massive, so it might be quite difficult. It might go up on a Pulsar 4, and maybe a Pulsar 4 moon version if I use 3 stages to get to orbit, but then I might have difficulty reusing it, so it would be very expensive. But yeah, I also do have a little bit of a gift for the station. I'm going to trade it some life support. The Ares 2 carries a huge amount of life support. That was one of its jobs that it never really did that much, was taking life support out to this station. So we're going to just pretty much give it like half of our life support and then head on home, because this has, yeah, a huge amount of life support. So, yeah, I guess just head on back to Kerbal. Now I will have to do some aerobraking maneuvers, and I really should put that other solar panel back on this at some point, because I did break, well, Jebediah broke one off like a freaking lunatic. He's not allowed back because he broke 2 of the solar panels on the station and broke one of the solar panels on the Ares, which, I mean, isn't super expensive, but when you consider you have to get all that stuff back out to Minmus, it's kind of annoying. So yeah. Anyway, looks like I've got a pretty good way of going home. Pretty good orbit is what I meant. That's why. But yeah, I'm going to dip inside the atmosphere like 40 kilometers. I found out last episode that that's actually a pretty effective way. It doesn't burn your spacecraft up, and it also doesn't not aerobrake at all, because that's one time I did just do so much aerobraking and I was too scared to go deep into the atmosphere. Sometimes you just gotta risk it, you know? Sometimes you just gotta risk lives and huge amounts of hardware. But I don't want to risk lives because I've killed no one in my space program so far. It's actually pretty surprising. Like not at all. Apparently I'm good at landing now, and I do put abort systems on my Ares vehicles, but I never seem to need them. But yeah, anyway, here we are. Just cut through the deorbit because it's just a deorbit. And just doing a bit of aerobraking. We did, I think, 3 passes, and here's another one. Just us slowing down, pulling our orbit in for basically free. We just have to melt off most of that engine bell. Obviously, you couldn't do this in real life because it would really damage the engine bell. And they are quite sensitive. Although saying that, SpaceX are planning to reuse rockets that have gone through re-entry, and I do wonder if the engines will hold up or they'll have to refurbish them a bit. But anyway, while that's heading here, it will take a while because it's another one of my slow maneuvers. I am deciding to head home, which is a bit annoying. I wanted to wait a little while because one of the Kerbals on the space station, on the Ares, needs to come home because they've been saved. But we don't have time. You can see my club alarm clock. We have 3 hours before we need to launch a Dres probe, and I actually did push that back a day, but it wasn't enough. So yeah, that's kind of annoying. So I'm just going to take all of this stuff out of here. Bill still has one of the screwdrivers and the solar panels, so I'm just going to put them back in the station's inventories. Because they could be useful here. But yeah, we're going to have to send this home. It's got a lot of science on it is the problem, and we need to get an accelerometer because we're going to go send a lander to Dres, basically. And it would be really helpful to have an accelerometer because that would be a lot more science. So yeah, it's just time to deorbit. Now this I've left this all in because it's a very, very, very interesting landing, actually. There's I'll explain it in a little bit, but yeah, it's kind of annoying. I am only sending 2 Kerbals home because all the others are on the station, need to be on the station right now. I have finally balanced out the whole too many Kerbals on the station thing. But yeah, as I said, one of the Kerbals in the Ares too, obviously they were rescued, so I don't get the full money till I bring them home. So it would have been nice to have them in here, but we'll just end up another one. I've got a free launch. I've got a launch that doesn't really need to be anything after this Dres probe. So yeah, we're going to come back. So in the past, you may remember that I've often landed my spacecraft kind of near to those mountains behind the KSC. kind of near, but I've always just missed them and landed in the highlands. This one, however, was going really fast, and kind of lands at the mountains, and I do just manage to pull the chutes. And I'm scared that they won't pull because it's such a steep slope. So I do decouple the heat shield, which is a new feature of 1.1, awesome, so that I land a little slower, because I'm still 3 kilometers up, so I'm going way too fast, and you can see one of my engines smashed off. And now I'm careening down a mountain, because it's a freaking mountain, and one of my parachutes breaks, and I lose a bunch of solar panels, and you can see so many things broke off, and we obviously landed too hard, so I had to decouple the heat shield, and just lost the other engine, I think, and I was just rolling down this mountain for ages, trying to get it to just stop rolling, because I was so scared this was going to just jump a bit and explode, and I was trying to use the RCS, and it was ridiculous. So yeah, in conclusion, don't land on mountains. But eventually, after the parachutes break, we do come to a stop, and that is good. So we do get that back, and we do get the science to get the accelerometer, complete the Dres probe, and load it on to a Pulsar 3. Yes, we are bound for Dres today. We're sending our probe off there. It's the furthest a probe will have gone, which also presents the problem that I don't really have the communications equipment for Dres, but as long as we're not on opposite sides of the sun, I will be able to communicate with probes around Dres. So we are good. It should be fine. But yeah, this is a lander and orbital mission. There will be no flying by, no just orbiting. We are going to land because gentlemen, we have the technology. And obviously Dres gets forgotten. I mean, who goes to Dres? So this is probably going to be like one of the only spacecraft that goes there. But yeah, you can see it here. It's quite big compared to my other interstellar probes. And this is not a kestrel like my other... Did I say interstellar? I meant interplanetary. It's not a kestrel like my other interplanetary probes. It is a buzzard, because buzzards hover, and this will hover just before it lands. I was like, that's clever enough for tape. So yeah, anyway, here we are, just gonna bring this rocket arm back. It has its problems. I've shut down the engines, but this does have a tendency to want to tip forward, which is a bit weird. People keep telling me, and I do know that tank where the residual fuel should be on the bottom, because then there'll be more mass on the bottom, and I think the fuel being in the top probably is what's tipping it. So that's kind of annoying. But yeah, the chutes do pull, and it does stay pointing the right way, so everything's fine. And you notice that I sent that probe onto a very fast orbit, because I really wanted it to not fall back into the atmosphere. So yeah, we just land this pretty standard on the engines, recover it, get our money back. How much money is that? Like 19 grand, I think those go for when I land them. So yes, the Buzzard 1, the first of the interplanetary landers. It's using nuclear engines, actually. The smaller ones. I think those are from stock extension, unless they put them into KSP 1.1. Maybe they did, but yeah, I'm just going to set up an alarm clock. We're going to launch that in, I think, 11 days is the new best estimate for our window. So we've got a couple of things to do between now and then, but that should be heading off in the next episode. But yeah, this should hopefully go all the way to Dres and do some really cool stuff. It's using wings instead of landing legs, as you can see there, which I thought was pretty interesting. And it uses 4 small nuclear engines because it makes it much shorter. And yeah, basically, you can see that there's a top bit which will detach when it's in orbit of Dres, so that it can communicate with Kerbal, but I don't have to land the huge antenna. So then the middle bit kind of breaks off, and that goes and lands. And the transfer stage has some science on it, but that was basically put on there just to keep it shorter, because then I can... various things, but yes, basically what I'm trying to say, it was very hard to actually get it inside the fairing. But yeah, anyway, I'm just rambling about this probe. I'm quite proud of how it came out. So yeah, anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you're looking forward to the next episode and the future episodes where we land on Dres, and we're going to be going back to Eve pretty soon. If you remember, we had that probe that's actually we're reusing, and it's going to get to Eve in like 20 days. So yeah, anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. I'll see you next time.